The Mafia boss fell into the frozen lake. She jumped in after him without thinking twice. The ice cracked like a gunshot beneath Dante Moretti's weight, and in the second before the frozen water swallowed him whole, his eyes locked with hers across the Winter Park. A stranger who'd been watching him from the fountain, clutching a worn medical textbook against her chest. And before his bodyguards could even shout a warning, before rational thought could stop her, Elena Volkov dropped everything and ran toward the widening black hole in the lake, her boots sliding on frost as she dove head-first into water so cold it felt like knives. Wait, before the next turn, if this story already has your pulse racing, tell us where you're watching from. To stay close when hearts break, debts are paid, and vows are whispered under city lights, subscribe and don't blink. Now, back to the scene. The shock of the water knocked every thought from Elena's mind except one: reach him. Her nursing school training kicked in through the ice-burning pain. Keep your eyes open, orient yourself, find the victim. Through the murky darkness, she saw him sinking, his black coat billowing around him like ink in water. His eyes were open but unfocused, hands reaching for nothing. She kicked hard, her lungs already screaming for air, and grabbed the front of his coat. He was heavier than she expected, all muscle and winter layers. But she'd pulled drowning children from the community pool during her summer lifeguard job. This was just colder. Infinitely, impossibly colder. Her vision started to tunnel as she kicked upward, dragging him with her. The hole in the ice seemed impossibly far, a gray circle of light that kept shifting. Her arms were going numb, her legs felt like lead, but she didn't let go. When they broke the surface, someone was screaming, multiple someones. Strong hands grabbed her arms, hauling her onto solid ice. And then more hands pulled Dante's unconscious body out beside her. Elena collapsed onto her side, coughing up lake water, her entire body convulsing with shivers so violent she couldn't control them. "Who the hell is she?" a man's voice barked. "Get the boss to the car, now! Someone grab the girl!" "No hospitals," another voice commanded. "Take them both to the estate. Move!" Elena tried to protest, tried to say she was fine, she just needed a minute, but her jaw was locked from the cold and her vision kept blurring. Someone wrapped her in a coat that smelled like expensive cologne and cigarette smoke, and then she was being lifted, carried toward a black SUV that had appeared at the park's edge. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Dante Moretti's face, pale as death, being shoved into another vehicle as men in dark suits surrounded him like an army. Elena woke to warmth. Not the pleasant warmth of her studio apartment's rattling radiator, but the kind of heat that suggested money. Even heating, soft surfaces, the hum of central air pushing comfort into every corner. She opened her eyes to find herself in a bed the size of her entire bedroom, wrapped in blankets that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "She's awake," a woman's voice said. Elena turned her head. Too fast, the room spun, and found a middle-aged woman in medical scrubs standing beside the bed, checking a monitor Elena hadn't noticed. "Where?" Elena's voice came out as a croak. Her throat felt raw. "You're safe," the woman said, not unkindly. "You've been unconscious for 6 hours. Mild hypothermia, some water in your lungs, but you'll recover fully. I'm Dr. Castellano. Can you tell me your name?" "Elena Volkov." She tried to sit up, but her muscles screamed in protest. "The man, the one who fell through the ice, is he?" "Mr. Moretti is alive because of you," Dr. Castellano said, "though I'm not sure he'll appreciate the heroics once he's coherent enough to be angry." "Angry?" Elena stared at her. "I saved his life." "Yes, and in doing so, you became a complication." The doctor's expression was sympathetic but matter-of-fact, as if she'd explained this particular problem before. "You saw something you weren't supposed to see. You intervened in something you weren't supposed to be part of. And now, the door opened. The man who entered made the bodyguard look small, not physically, though he was tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the controlled grace of someone who knew how to hurt people, but in presence. He carried authority like a weapon, and when his dark eyes swept over Elena, she felt pinned in place like a butterfly under glass. "Out," he said, quietly. Dr. Castellano and the bodyguard left without a word. The man approached the bed slowly, hands in the pockets of his perfectly tailored slacks. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled to his elbows, and Elena could see a bandage on his forearm. His dark hair was still damp. "You're Dante Veretti," Elena said, because saying it out loud made it real, made the impossibility of this situation concrete. "The Dante Moretti. And you're the idiot who jumped into a frozen lake to save me." His voice was rough, probably from the same water that had scraped her throat raw. "Why?" Elena blinked. "Why did I save you from drowning? No one asked you to risk your life for mine. You were dying. People die every day." He moved closer, and Elena saw the bruising on his neck, the exhaustion around his eyes, especially people like me. "So I'll ask again, why?" "Because—" Elena stopped, trying to find words for something that had been pure instinct. "Because I could. Because I was there. Because that's what you do when someone's drowning. You help them." "In your world, maybe." Dante's laugh was bitter. "In mine, you let them drown. Especially if they're the head of the Moretti family. Especially if saving them means inheriting their deaths, their enemies, their wars. I don't understand. You saved my life." He leaned down, bracing one hand on the headboard beside her, close enough that she could smell lake water still clinging to his skin. "That means you're mine now. Under the old laws, under the code that men like me still live by, a life debt is absolute. Until I consider it paid, you don't leave my sight. You don't make a move without my permission. You became part of my world the second you touched me." Elena's heart was hammering. "That's insane." "That's survival." His eyes were black in the low light, unreadable. "Someone tried to kill me today. They sabotaged the ice, waited until I took my morning walk through the park. A walk I've taken every day for 5 years because routines are deadly and I'm arrogant enough to keep them anyway. They wanted to make it look like an accident. And then you, a nursing student from Queens who volunteers at the free clinic on weekends and takes the subway to school because your car died 8 months ago, you dove in after me." Elena's blood went cold. "How do you know?" "I know everything about you now. Elena Volkov, 26, orphaned at 19 when your parents died in a car accident, working 3 jobs to pay for school, no family except an aunt in Boston you haven't spoken to in 2 years. I know your address, your schedule, the name of the coffee shop where you study. I know you're 4 months behind on rent and about to lose your scholarship if you miss another semester payment." He straightened, withdrawing the heat of his proximity. "I know you're in danger now, because whoever wanted me dead saw you save me. They know what you look like, and they'll use you to get to me, unless I use you first." "Use me?" Elena struggled upright despite the protest of her muscles, anger overriding fear. "I'm not some chess piece." "Yes, you are. Welcome to my world." Dante walked to the window, gazing out at grounds Elena couldn't see from her position. "But unlike my enemies, I protect my pieces. You'll stay here, under my protection, until the threat is neutralized. In return, I'll pay off your debts, fund your education, make sure you graduate with enough money to start whatever life you want. And if I refuse?" He turned, and for the first time, something like emotion flickered across his features. "Then you'll be dead within a week. They'll find you in your apartment, make it look like a robbery, or you'll disappear on your way to class. Or you'll have an accident, just like the one they planned for me." His jaw tightened. "You jumped into freezing water for a stranger. Don't make me watch that sacrifice mean nothing." Elena pulled the blankets tighter, trying to think through the exhaustion and confusion. How long? However long it takes to find who ordered the hit and end them. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Dante moved toward the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. A guard will be posted outside. Dr. Castellano will check on you every few hours. If you need anything, tell them. Get some rest, Elena. Tomorrow, I'll show you what you've gotten yourself into. Wait! But he was already gone, the door closing with a soft click that sounded like a prison cell locking. Elena sank back into the pillows, staring at the ornate ceiling, trying to process the impossible turn her life had taken. This morning, she'd been cramming for her anatomy final, worrying about rent and student loans and whether she'd ever actually become a nurse. Now, she was a prisoner in a mansion, claimed by a mafia boss under some ancient code, hunted by killers because she'd done the right thing. Her phone was gone. Checked the nightstand, the dresser, found nothing except her clothes cleaned and folded. No way to call for help, no way to reach anyone who might. What? Believe her? The police wouldn't touch Dante Moretti. Everyone knew the Moretti family owned half the city's officials. She was truly, completely alone. Elena closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Instead, she kept seeing that moment when Dante's eyes had locked with hers across the park, right before the ice gave way. The strange recognition in his gaze, as if he'd been looking for her, as if drowning had been the easy part, and everything after was the real test of survival. Morning came too bright through windows Elena couldn't figure out how to cover. She'd eventually slept, exhaustion winning over anxiety, but her dreams had been full of black water and sinking bodies and eyes that watched her from the deep. Dr. Castellano arrived with breakfast, actual food on actual china, not the ramen packets Elena usually survived on, and pronounced her recovered enough to move around. Though, take it easy, the doctor warned. Your body went through trauma. Don't push it. The guard outside her door, a different one from last night, younger but just as stone-faced, escorted her through hallways that belonged in a museum. Marble floors, paintings that were probably originals, the kind of casual wealth that had never touched Elena's life. They ended up in a study that screamed masculine power. Dark wood, leather furniture, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and Dante behind a desk that looked like it weighed more than Elena's car used to. He looked up as she entered, and something flickered across his features. Relief? Concern? Before his expression went neutral again. Sit, he said. Elena considered refusing on principle, but her legs were still shaky, so she took one of the chairs facing his desk. Good morning to you two. You slept well? I slept like someone who was kidnapped. Protected, Dante corrected. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. His mouth almost curved into a smile. Almost. You don't scare easily, do you? I'm terrified, Elena said honestly. But being scared never helped anyone, so I'd rather be angry. This time he did smile, brief and sharp as broken glass. Good. Fear makes people stupid. Anger keeps them alive. He slid a folder across the desk. Open it. Elena hesitated, then pulled the folder closer. Inside were photographs, crime scene photos, she realized with growing horror. Bodies in alleys, cars torn apart by explosions, buildings reduced to rubble. And in the margins, notes in neat handwriting detailing dates, methods, suspected culprits. This is what my life looks like, Dante said quietly. 23 attempts on my life in the past 5 years, 14 dead bodyguards, 6 civilian casualties, wrong place, wrong time. I don't show you this to frighten you. I show you this so you understand what staying near me means. Elena forced herself to look at each photo, to bear witness to the violence he lived with daily. Then why keep me here, if it's this dangerous? Because leaving is more dangerous. He leaned forward, elbows on the desk. Someone knows you saved me. They know your face, probably your name by now. If I send you away, you're an unloose end, easy to eliminate. But if you stay, if everyone sees you're under my protection, you become too valuable to touch. An asset, not a liability. Unless they use me as leverage against you. They'll try. His eyes were hard now, all business, which is why you're going to learn how to protect yourself. Combat training, situational awareness, basic weapons handling. I'm not becoming a killer, Elena interrupted. No, you're becoming someone who's hard to kill. There's a difference. Dante closed the folder, removing the images from her sight. I have enemies who'd love nothing more to hurt me through you. The only way to prevent that is to make you dangerous. Elena laughed, couldn't help it. I'm a nursing student who faints at the sight of bone fractures. I'm not dangerous. You dove into a frozen lake without hesitation. You've been awake in a crime lord's mansion for less than 12 hours, and you're arguing with me instead of cowering. You're more dangerous than you know, Elena. You just haven't been taught how to weaponize it. The way he said her name, like it meant something, like he'd been testing its weight on his tongue, sent an unwelcome shiver through her. And if I refuse all of this, she asked, if I just want to go back to my normal life? Dante stood, circling the desk to lean against it in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Your normal life ended when you touched me. There's no going back. There's only forward. His voice dropped lower. But I promise you this, while you're under my roof, under my protection, no one touches you. No one hurts you. And when this is over, when I've eliminated the threat, you'll walk away with enough money to build whatever life you want, wherever you want. Why do you care? Elena searched his face for deception, for ulterior motive. Why does my life matter to you? Something dark and complicated moved through his expression. Because you jumped in after me without thinking twice. Because in 34 years of living in this world, surrounded by people who'd sell their mothers for advantage, you're the first person who risked everything for me, expecting nothing in return. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of her still damp hair behind her ear. Because I'm tired of owing my life to men who only saved it to use it. And you saved it just because I was drowning. His touch was gentle, at odds with everything she'd seen in those photographs. Elena's breath caught. The door burst open. Dante stepped back smoothly, his entire demeanor shifting to something cold and lethal as a man in an expensive suit strode in, two bodyguards flanking him. Dante. The man's smile was all teeth and no warmth. I heard about your little accident. How fortunate that someone was there to fish you out. Marco. Dante's voice was flat. You weren't invited. Family doesn't need invitations. Marco's eyes slid to Elena, assessing and dismissive in the same glance. And who's this, the hero of the hour? You know, saving a Moretti comes with obligations. She's none of your concern. Everything that affects you concerns me, cousin, especially when it creates vulnerabilities. Marco moved closer to Elena, and she fought the urge to recoil. Tell me, sweetheart, how much is he paying you to play the grateful rescuer? What's your angle? There's no angle, Elena said, finding her voice. I saw someone drowning, and I helped. That's it. Nobody does something for nothing in our world. Then maybe I'm not from your world. Marco laughed, sharp and cruel. You are now. The moment you pulled Dante out of that lake, you signed your name in blood. His enemies are your enemies. His debts are your debts. I hope whatever he's offering is worth it. Enough. Dante's voice cracked like a whip. You've delivered your concern. Now leave. I'm here to help, cousin. Someone clearly wants you dead. Someone bold enough to move in broad daylight. You need to increase security, reduce exposure, eliminate any weaknesses. His gaze returned to Elena, and she's a weakness. Anyone with eyes can see it. "Get out," Dante said softly, and the menace in those two words made Elena's skin prickle. "Before I forget, we share blood." Marco raised his hands in mock surrender, just looking out for family. "But if you want to keep your little pet project, that's your funeral." He headed for the door, then paused. Literally, probably. The door closed behind him. The tension in the room remained. "Who was that?" Elena asked. "My cousin. My father's sister's son. Second in command of the family, and first in line if something happens to me." Dante moved to the window, jaw tight. "Which means he has motive to ensure something does happen to me." "You think he—" "I think everyone's a suspect until proven otherwise, including family, especially family." He turned back to her. "Which is another reason you're staying close. Marco's right about one thing. You are a weakness now, but you're also a shield. He can't move against me while you're here without making his intentions obvious, and Marco's too smart to be obvious." Elena's head was spinning. "This is insane. Your own family would kill me for power in a heartbeat if they thought they could get away with it. That's how this world works. That's why I need you to understand what you're caught in." Dante crossed back to her, and this time when he reached out, he took her hand, pulling her to her feet. "I'm not the hero of this story, Elena. I'm the monster pretending to have a code. But I'm the monster who's going to keep you alive. And in return, you're going to—" "Be your weakness shield?" she finished, anger flaring. "Your convenient excuse for why someone shouldn't kill you? My reason to end this war before it destroys everything." His grip on her hand tightened, not painful, but insistent. 23 attempts on my life, Elena. 23 times someone's tried to put me in the ground. I'm tired. I'm tired of watching my back every second. Tired of not knowing who's loyal and who's waiting for the right moment to strike. But I can't show weakness, can't show fear, can't show anything except absolute control. "So what am I?" Elena demanded. "Really?" Dante pulled her closer until they were inches apart, until she could feel the heat radiating off him. "You're the first person in 10 years who looked at me and didn't see a weapon, or a stepping stone, or a paycheck. You saw a drowning man, and you helped. No calculation, no angle. Just help." His free hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. "Maybe you're the proof that not everyone in my orbit has to become corrupted. Or maybe what? Maybe you're the reason I finally have to win." His voice was barely above a whisper. "Because losing means you die too, and I've decided that's unacceptable." Elena's heart was hammering so hard she was sure he could feel it. This was wrong, all of it was wrong. He was a criminal, a killer, a man who lived in a world of violence and betrayal. She should be afraid, she should be demanding he let her go. But when she looked into his eyes, she didn't see the monster he claimed to be. She saw exhaustion and determination and something raw that looked almost like hope. "I'm not staying because of some ancient code," she said quietly. "And I'm not staying because you're paying my debts." "Then why are you staying?" "Because if I leave, you'll just find some other way to feel obligated to protect me, and you'll get yourself killed doing it." Elena lifted her free hand, placed it over his heart, felt it beating strong and steady. "Someone needs to keep you alive. Apparently, that's my job now." Dante's laugh was soft, disbelieving. "You're insane. Says the man who accepts assassination attempts like most people accept junk mail." "Ha ha ha, I'm growing fond of your anger." Good, you'll be seeing a lot of it. Elena stepped back, breaking the contact, needing space to think. If I'm staying, we do this my way too. I'm not becoming your possession or your doll or your convenient excuse for anything. I'm a person with opinions and boundaries and… The window exploded. Dante moved faster than thought, tackling Elena to the ground as glass rained around them, covering her body with his. The sound of gunfire erupted outside, return fire from his security, Elena realized through her shock. "Stay down," Dante ordered, his weight pressing her into the carpet. "Don't move." More gunshots, shouting. And then, gradually, silence. Dante lifted himself slightly, checking for injuries. "You hurt?" Elena did a mental inventory. "No. You?" "Glass got me. Nothing serious." He had cuts on his arms from shielding her, blood seeping through his shirt. "This is what I meant about dangerous. This is why." "I know." Elena reached up, touched his face, saw the fear beneath his control. "I understand now." The door burst open. The guard from earlier rushed in, gun drawn, 3 more men behind him. "Boss, you okay?" "Fine. Status?" 2 shooters, fled in a black sedan. "We got the plates, already running them." The guard's eyes flickered to Elena. "She needs to be moved to the safe room." "No." Dante stood, pulling Elena up with him. "She stays with me." "New protocol. I want 4 guards on rotation outside my study, 2 on her bedroom, snipers on the roof at all times. Review all staff, check backgrounds again, find me anything suspicious." "Sir." "Do it, now." The guards left. Dante turned to Elena, and she saw something in his expression that made her chest ache. Guilt. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I knew they might try again, but I didn't think. I should have. You protected me." Elena touched his arm, the one that was bleeding. "Now let me return the favor. Sit. I need to look at these cuts." "Elena." "I'm a nursing student, remember? This is what I do." She guided him to the leather chair, found the first aid kit she'd spotted earlier when Marco was here. "Besides, if you die from an infection after surviving drowning and assassination, I'm going to feel really stupid about that whole jumping into the lake thing." Dante laughed despite himself, the sound tired and genuine. "You're remarkable, you know that? I'm terrified and running on adrenaline and way out of my depth." Elena carefully cleaned the glass from his wounds. "But someone has to keep you alive. Apparently, the universe decided it's me." As she worked, Dante watched her with an intensity that made her hands almost shake. Not threatening, studying, as if he was trying to memorize her, understand her, figure out the equation of this impossible girl who'd fallen into his world. "When this is over," he said softly, "I'll make sure you're set up somewhere safe. New identity if you want it, enough money that you never have to worry. You can finish school, open a clinic, save lives that are worth saving." "Stop planning my exit while I'm still stitching you up," Elena interrupted. "It's bad luck." "I don't believe in luck." "Then believe in me." She tied off the bandage, met his eyes. "Believe that I'm stubborn enough to survive this, and that maybe you saving me by keeping me here means I get to save you too, from whoever's trying to kill you, and maybe from yourself." Dante reached up, caught her hand before she could pull away. "Why would you want to save me? I'm everything you should be running from." "Because when you look at me, you don't see someone weak who needs rescuing. You see someone strong enough to do the rescuing." Elena squeezed his hand. "And because that man drowning in the lake, he wanted to live. I saw it in his eyes, so I'm going to make sure he does." For a long moment, Dante just looked at her. Then he stood, still holding her hand, and pulled her close enough that she could feel his breath on her lips. "You're going to destroy me," he whispered. "Or save you. Haven't decided yet." "Elena." Another knock on the door. Dante released her, stepping back.
the vulnerable man disappearing behind the crime lord's mask. "Come." It was the head of security, looking grim. "We traced the plates. They're registered to a shell company, same one that owns the construction firm that accidentally broke the water main that flooded the park last week. Same one that's been buying up property around your usual walking route." "Someone's been planning this for weeks," Dante said quietly.
"Which means it's someone who knows my patterns, my security, my—" He stopped. "Pull records on everyone who's had access to my schedule for the past month, cross-reference with Marcos' known associates." "You really think your cousin?" "I think I'm about to find out." Dante's voice was ice. "And I think Elena should be nowhere near me when I do." "No," Elena said firmly. "You said it yourself. I'm safest where you can see me, so I'm staying." Dante looked at her, and in his eyes she saw a war between the man who wanted to protect her and the man who needed her close. "You don't know what I'm capable of." "Then show me, all of it, the monster you claim to be." Elena lifted her chin, refusing to back down. "Because I don't think he's as monstrous as you want everyone to believe." The security chief cleared his throat. "Sir, do it. I want answers by tonight." Dante's gaze never left Elena. "And someone get Elena proper clothes, a secure phone, anything she needs. She's not going anywhere." The next few days passed in a blur of activity Elena couldn't fully track. Dante's study became a war room, men coming and going at all hours, conversations in Italian and Russian and languages she didn't recognize. She caught fragments, names, places, amounts of money that made her dizzy. And through it all, Dante kept her close. Not physically, he gave her space when she needed it, never pushed, never demanded. But she felt his presence constantly, the weight of his attention, even when he was across the room, dealing with what she was starting to understand was an empire. On the third night, exhausted from another day of revelations about his world, Elena found herself in the mansion's library. Floor-to-ceiling books, the kind of collection that took generations to build. She was curled in a window seat, trying to read one of her textbooks, delivered along with all her possessions from her apartment, which had been secured without her permission, when Dante found her.
"Can't sleep?" he asked. "Too much in my head." Elena set the textbook aside. "Too many things I'm learning about your world that I can't unknow." "Regret jumping in after me yet? Ask me when someone shoots at me again." She patted the window seat beside her. "Sit. Tell me something that isn't about assassination attempts or family betrayal." Dante hesitated, then joined her, long legs stretched out, shoulder brushing hers in the confined space. "Like what?" "I don't know. Something normal. When did you first know you wanted to be— what do you even call what you do? A criminal?" His voice was dry. "I was born into it. My father ran the family, my grandfather before him. I didn't choose this life, it chose me. But you stay in it. Because leaving means dying. The only way out of this world is in a box." Dante stared out the window at the dark grounds. "I used to think about it, though. When I was younger, before I inherited everything. I'd imagine being someone else, someone normal. What would normal Dante do?" He almost smiled. "Probably something boring. Maybe teach literature. I've always loved books. Or run a restaurant. My nana taught me to cook before she died. Said a man who could feed himself could survive anything." Elena tried to picture it. Dante in a kitchen instead of a war room, teaching students instead of ordering hits. The image felt both impossible and achingly right. You could still do those things. After. After what? After you figure out who's trying to kill you. After you, I don't know, retire? Can Mafia bosses retire? Not really. But Dante turned to look at her, and in the lamplight, his features were softer. But maybe someone who's tired of this life could train a successor. Step back, find something else. Would you want that? He stopped, jaw tightening. "I want to stop looking over my shoulder. I want to sleep without a gun under my pillow. I want to walk through a park without checking for snipers. You want to be safe, Elena said softly. I want to be free. The confession seemed to cost him. But men like me don't get freedom. We get power or we get death. Nothing in between. Elena reached over, took his hand. Then we'll make something in between. We? You jumped first. Into that lake, into danger, into teaching me about your world. Now I'm jumping after you, into whatever comes next. She squeezed his fingers. Someone has to believe you can be more than what you were born to be. Dante lifted her hand, pressed his lips to her knuckles. You're dangerous, Elena Volkov. Good. You need someone dangerous on your side. A sharp knock on the library door broke the moment. One of the guards entered, face grim. Boss, we found something. You need to see this now. Dante stood immediately, but kept Elena's hand in his. Show me. They followed the guard to Dante's study, where his security chief had papers spread across the desk. Financial records, Elena realized. Transfers, accounts, amounts that made her head spin. Marco's been moving money, the security chief said without preamble. Large amounts, through the same shell companies that staged your accident. He's been planning this for at least 6 months. Dante's expression went cold and hard. You're certain? 90%. The other 10% is that someone's been very carefully trying to frame him. But given his access, his motive, where is he now? At his club downtown. We've had eyes on him since the shooting. He doesn't know we know. Dante was silent for a long moment, and Elena watched something terrible happen behind his eyes. The death of whatever hope he'd had left that family might mean something more than betrayal. Bring him here, Dante said finally. Tell him I want to discuss security upgrades. Don't let him know we're aware of anything. And he glanced at Elena. Take her to the safe room. No, Elena said. I'm staying with you.
Elena, when Marco gets here, I know what's going to happen, or I can guess. She stepped closer, lowered her voice. And I'm not leaving you to do it alone. Whatever you have to do to survive, to end this, I'm not running from it. I don't want you to see. I know, but I'm staying anyway. Elena touched his face, made him look at her. Because after, when it's done, someone needs to remind you that you're still human. That's my job now. Dante caught her hand, held it against his cheek. You shouldn't. But I will. We already established I make terrible decisions, like jumping into frozen lakes. She tried to smile. Consider this the same thing. An hour later, Marco arrived. Elena watched from a corner of the study, deliberately visible. Watched Marco's eyes flicker to her, dismiss her again as unimportant. He was so sure of himself, so confident. Dante, cousin! Marco spread his arms as he entered. You sounded urgent. What's this about security? Sit, Dante said quietly. Something in his tone made Marco hesitate. What's going on? I want you to explain something to me. Dante slid the financial records across the desk. I want you to explain why you've been funneling family money through shell companies. Why those same companies have been positioning themselves around my regular routes. Why, his voice dropped to something deadly. Why my own blood tried to drown me. Marco's face went carefully blank. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't. Dante stood slowly. Don't insult me by lying. I have records, Marco. Transfers, emails, communications with the men who sabotaged that ice. I have everything. You're paranoid. Someone's trying to frame me. Enough! Dante's voice cracked like thunder. I gave you power. I trusted you with family business. I treated you like a brother. And you tried to kill me. Marco's mask slipped. His hand moved toward his jacket. Gun, Elena realized with horror.
But Dante was faster. He had his own weapon out, aimed, steady. "Don't," Dante said softly. "Please, don't make me do this. You're weak," Marco spat. "You've always been weak. Father should have left the family to me. I would have made us stronger, more powerful. But you and your codes, your rules about civilians, your soft heart. My soft heart kept you alive this long, and my patience ran out months ago." Marco's laugh was bitter. "You want to know why I did it? Because I'm tired of watching you waste our potential. Tired of playing second to a boss who'd rather read books than expand our territory. Tired." He moved, fast, pulling the gun. Dante fired first. The sound was deafening in the enclosed study. Marco crumpled, hand pressed to his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. Not a killing shot. Deliberately not a killing shot, Elena realized. "You'll live," Dante said, voice flat. "Long enough to stand trial in front of the family council. Long enough to confess everything you've done. And then," his eyes were dead, "then you'll wish I'd killed you here." Guards flooded the room. Marco was hauled away, screaming threats and curses. More men came to document the scene, collect evidence, the machinery of Dante's world clicking into efficient action. And through it all, Elena watched Dante's face, watched him become stone, become the monster he claimed to be, become the boss who just shot his own cousin. When they were finally alone, when the study was cleared and the door closed, Dante set his gun on the desk with shaking hands. "That's who I am," he said quietly back to her. "That's what I do. I shoot family members who betray me. I make men wish for death. Elena crossed the room, wrapped her arms around him from behind, felt him flinch, then gradually lean into her embrace. "You gave him a chance to explain," she said against his back. "You shot to wound, not to kill. You showed mercy even when he didn't deserve it." "Mercy? I just destroyed the last piece of family I had." "No. He destroyed himself when he chose power over loyalty. You defended yourself, and me, and everyone else who depends on you." Dante turned in her arms, and she saw the devastation in his eyes. "I don't want to be this person. I know. But tonight, you were also the person who gave his cousin every chance to choose differently, who protected the people he's responsible for, who—" Elena reached up, brushed away a tear she wasn't sure he knew he'd shed. "Who's human enough to cry about it?" "Elena." She kissed him. Not planned, not calculated, just necessary. A way to remind him he was alive. He was more than just violence and duty. He was a man who cooked and loved books and wanted to be free. Dante froze for a heartbeat, then kissed her back with the desperation of someone drowning again, someone reaching for air, for hope, for anything that felt real. His hands came up to cup her face, gentle despite the violence they'd just committed, and Elena tasted salt. His tears or hers, she wasn't sure. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "You can't save me," he whispered. "Watch me," she whispered back. Marco's confession came 3 days later, in front of the family council. The heads of allied families, the old guard, who enforced the codes Dante lived by. Elena wasn't allowed in the room, but she heard the shouting, the accusations, the final verdict. Exile. Stripped of the family name, sent away with nothing. A mercy by their standards, by anyone's standards really, given the alternative. Dante returned from the meeting, looking 10 years older. "It's done," he said simply. Elena had been waiting in his study, curled in his chair, trying to focus on anatomy homework, but mostly just staring at the door. She stood when he entered, crossed to him, let him pull her into an embrace that felt like the only real thing in his world of smoke and mirrors. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now I rebuild. Find new lieutenants, secure the business, prove to everyone watching that the Moretti family is still strong." He pulled back enough to look at her. "And I keep my promise. I keep you safe until you can go back to your life." "What if I don't want to go back?" Dante's eyes searched hers. "Elena, I'm not saying I want to stay in this world forever, but—" She touched his chest, felt his heart racing. "But you're not the only one who jumped into something without thinking twice. I've been here almost 2 weeks now. I've seen the worst of your world, and yeah, it's terrifying and violent and insane, but I've also seen you, the real you, under the boss and the monster and the codes. You've seen someone who kills to survive. I've seen someone who cries when he has to, who gives chances when he shouldn't, who wants to teach literature and cook meals and walk through parks without fear." Elena rose on her toes, kissed him softly. "I've seen the man who was drowning, and he's worth saving, even if he doesn't believe it yet. I'll never be normal. I'll never be safe. Neither will I after this. Normal people don't become shields for mafia bosses. They don't jump into frozen lakes or kiss criminals or—" She smiled despite everything. "Or fall for the man they saved from drowning." Dante's breath caught. "You can't. Too late. Already did." Elena shrugged. "So, now you're stuck with me. At least until I finish nursing school. Then we can reevaluate." "This is insane. You've mentioned that before. I'm starting to think insane is our normal." Dante laughed, the sound broken and relieved and almost joyful. "You're going to destroy my reputation. Boss of the Moretti family brought to his knees by a nursing student. Better than being brought to your knees by a frozen lake. Fair point." He kissed her again, deeper this time, as if sealing a promise neither of them had quite made yet. When he pulled back, his eyes were clearer. "I can't promise you safety. I can't promise you normal. But I can promise that as long as I'm breathing, no one touches you, no one hurts you. And someday, when this world finally lets me go, I'll give you the life you deserve." "I just want the life where you're in it," Elena said simply. "Safe or dangerous, normal or insane, as long as we're both still breathing." "Deal." Dante took her hand, laced their fingers together. "Though fair warning, breathing is harder in my world. Good thing I know CPR." His laugh was genuine this time, warm and real. "How did I survive without you?" "You didn't. That's why I had to jump in after you." 6 months later, Elena defended her thesis in front of a nursing school board, graduated top of her class, and accepted a position at a hospital on the edge of the city. Not the free clinic she'd always imagined, but close enough. A place where she could help people who needed it without questions about insurance or payment. Dante attended her graduation, sitting in the back row with 4 bodyguards trying to look casual in their suits. She spotted him immediately, saw the pride in his eyes when she walked across that stage, and felt something warm settle in her chest. They'd spent the past 6 months in a strange dance, her finishing school while living in the secure apartment had bought for her, close enough to visit, far enough to have space. Him rebuilding his empire while trying to extricate himself from the worst of it, promoting lieutenants he trusted, delegating the violent parts to men who were better at compartmentalizing, slowly shifting the family business toward legitimate enterprises. It was slow work, bloody work sometimes, but it was work towards something better. After the ceremony, after the photos and the congratulations and the surreal experience of introducing Dante to her benefactor, which wasn't technically a lie, they ended up at the park, the same park where everything had started. The lake was thawed now, peaceful in the late spring sun. "Weird being back here," Elena said, staring at the water. Strange how a place that almost killed me ended up saving me instead. Dante pulled her close, arm around her shoulders. You know what day it is? Thursday? 6 months exactly since you ruined my assassination. Elena laughed. Is that what we're calling it? Worst day of my life turned into the best. He turned her to face him. I've been thinking. Dangerous. About what you said. About making something in between power and death. About being free. Elena's heart started racing. And I think I found a successor. Someone I trust, who wants the job, who's better suited to it than I ever was. Dante's eyes were bright with something that looked like hope. It'll take time to transition, maybe another year. But after that, I was hoping you'd want to open that clinic you always talked about. Maybe somewhere warm. Somewhere no one knows the name Moretti. He cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. Somewhere we could both try being normal. Elena's throat was tight. You'd really leave all of this? The power, the family, everything you've built? I'd leave everything for the chance to live instead of just survive. To walk through parks without checking for snipers. To cook dinner for the woman who saved my life without worrying someone's going to poison it. His voice dropped. To marry you without worrying that being my wife makes you a target. Marry? Elena couldn't breathe. Dante, I'm not proposing. Not yet. Not until I can offer you a life that's actually worth sharing. He kissed her softly. But someday, when this is all behind us, when we're far away from frozen lakes and assassination attempts, I'm going to ask you properly, with a ring and flowers and all the normal things you deserve. I don't need normal, Elena said, tears streaming down her face. I just need you. You'll have me, for as long as you'll keep me. Dante pulled her into an embrace that felt like a promise. The nursing student who jumped into a frozen lake without thinking twice. The woman who saw a monster and decided to save him anyway. You were never a monster, just a man who was drowning. Elena pulled back enough to kiss him. And yeah, I'll keep you. But fair warning, I'm terrible at following rules, and I'm definitely going to keep jumping into dangerous situations to save people, including you. I wouldn't expect anything less. Dante took her hand, started walking away from the lake toward whatever came next. Though maybe we can find safer ways to save each other from now on. Where's the fun in that? His laugh echoed across the park, warm and free and alive. God, I love you. Love you too. Elena squeezed his hand. Even if you do attract assassination attempts like some people attract mosquitoes. That's oddly specific. I'm a nurse. I deal in specifics. They walked away from the lake, from the place where their story had started with ice and cold and desperate rescue, towards something neither of them could have predicted 6 months ago. Not normal, maybe never normal, but real, solid, worth saving. Behind them, the water reflected the sky, peaceful and deep. A surface that had cracked once, that had almost swallowed a life, but had instead become the beginning of something neither drowning nor saving alone could have created. Just two people who jumped without thinking twice and found each other in the depths. 3 years later. Elena unlocked the door to Moretti Community Clinic, small, bright, in a town on the coast where no one knew about frozen lakes or family wars, where Dante ran a restaurant 3 blocks away, teaching cooking classes in the evenings and pretending he'd always been just a chef with a mysterious past, where they'd bought a small house with a garden, and sometimes Elena still wakes up shocked that they'd actually made it out. You ready? Dante appeared in the clinic doorway, apron still on from the lunch rush. Almost. Elena was arranging medical supplies, making sure everything was perfect for tomorrow's grand opening. Can you believe we actually did this? You did this. I just provided funding. You provided a lot more than funding. Elena crossed to him, wrapped her arms around his waist. You provided the reason to want a future worth planning for. Still the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. Dante kissed the top of her head. Come on, close up for the night. I made your favorite for dinner. As they walked home through streets where no one looked at them twice, where they were just Elena and Dante instead of the nursing student and the Mafia boss, Elena thought about that moment in the park. The split second when she'd decided to jump, when rational thought had taken a backseat to impossible instinct. She'd do it again in a heartbeat, because the man walking beside her, laughing at her terrible jokes and planning tomorrow's menu and dreaming about someday maybe having kids who'd grow up safe and loved, that man was worth every impossible decision. What are you thinking about? Dante asked. That morning at the lake, when you fell through the ice. You mean when you ruined my perfectly planned assassination?